Hello, Blackhawks Nation. Welcome to the Blackhawks Daily, your favorite recap of the daily buzz around your Chicago Blackhawks. I'm your host, PJ. Thank you for joining in with all of us and uplifting and celebrating and supporting the Hawks as they head into their centennial season this year. We've already kicked it off. It's already been a lot of fun, right? Lots to cover, as usual, with our top four topics of today. So let's dive in, have a look around the old Blackhawks world, shall we? So, you know what's better than regular power rankings? One that drops right after your team smacks down a division rival with 8 goals. Lazarus and Powers over at The Athletic just released their first Blackhawks power rankings of the season, themed Nazar's Flash, Reichel's Redemption, and some sweet jackets. And man, this feels like a moment. The Hawks are 2-2-1, and that 8-3 demolition of the Blues Wednesday night, it shows the vibes are through the roof. So let's roll through it, riff on what it means, and we'll see who's rising or tipping early in this rebuild. So top of the board, Nazar and Blashill, right? Frank Nazar, the electric eye. Lazarus and Powers put Frank Nazar at the top spot, and for good reason. His second period goal in St. Louis was pure Nazar. Blazing speed to blow past 2 defenders, a snapshot that found home after pushing it through, and the audacious celebration weaving through the post-goal chaos. Yeah, that was really funny. After Neighbors gave him that headlock, got him down in the crease, of course, both teams jumped in immediately and started a scrum. Nazar just kind of went off and celebrated by himself, which was kind of fun. But for him, it's the kind of moment that says, this kid's not just in the league, he's going to make you smile while doing it. So he is just a ton of fun to watch. And that TV moment didn't hurt. After one of his plays, he casually said on TNT that Connor Bedard isn't taking any shit. I guess I could say that. He's not taking any shit. Confidence, swagger, it's all in the package, right? Bedard's the foundation, but Nazar might become the most fun guy to dial in on every night. So definitely bears worth watching. Number 2 on the power rankings, Jeff Blashill. Early signs of culture. Ranked second, Blashill gets a lot of credit already, and for fair reason. The Hawks started out with some heartbreaks, right? Tight losses, one in OT, but followed with 2 solid wins. And that includes taking the Blues down on the road in their house. And that's not what we expected after the offseason predictions pegged Chicago as a bottom team again. So what stands out? The energy, the competitive grit, the team actually playing for each other rather than just wilting under pressure. Blashill's camp was tough. His systems are being tested early, but the roster seems to be buying in, and that's the hot takeaway. We got some mid-rankings and some movers, Mikheyev, Knight, Reichel, and others. Number 3, Ilya Mikheyev, steady, underappreciated weapon. Mikheyev is quietly doing all the right things. He's ranked 3rd, and with his track record, skating, penalty killing, and defense, pretty smart. He's already got 3 goals in the last 2 games. That kind of consistency makes him one of those glue pieces that every young team needs. Spencer Knight, the backbone, right? They slot Spencer Knight in at 4, and there's something to that. In a roster full of young, volatile talent, having a netminder that you trust night to night is a huge plus. Other teams pressuring you, Knight can keep you in the fight. Totally underrated value. And Lukas Reichel, redemption arc in motion. They had him penciled in as a tumble early, but then Reichel went out, scored 2 goals and picked up an assist versus St. Louis, and actually should have had 3, that hat trick. He just missed that one shot, that one breakaway. Suddenly, the narrative shift. His minutes still aren't high. I think he had the lowest on-ice time of any player last game. But he's making the most of what he gets. The redemption label they hung on him isn't just fluff. It's getting earned, which is awesome to see. One of the quirkiest but coolest pieces of their ranking, they nod to the jacket game. They mentioned the centennial opening ceremony and the swag, the alumni jackets, the presentation, the tradition. It all matters. Part optics, part identity. Teams build culture with these moments. And the way the organization is layering brand, legacy, and performance. Look, it's the early days, but slapping that visual identity down in tandem with results builds something that resonates. And those red corduroy jackets, pretty snappy, gotta say. So what do I see? What's my take on this and what to watch? Well, we got momentum right now, right? That 8-3 win that wasn't a fluke. That was a beatdown. That's a statement, right? The Hawks are capable of dominance against a good team. There's balance in the ranks. We're seeing the bottom and middle players get involved, not just the stars. That's so key. We got great coaching ethos. Blashill is pressing virtue and grit, process, and consistency, and the team's responding to it, which is awesome to see. And narrative soldiers, Reichel, Nazar, these guys are all in on making their stories more than just background bits. If they keep feeding this fire with performance, with heart, and with identity, these power rankings won't just be quotes on a page. They'll be lived every night in the 6 zones. So let's see who jumps next week. It's going to be definitely fun to watch. Moving on from there, let's talk about what Bedard said after the game. So Scott Rogas over at Blackhawk Up reported that Connor Bedard basically just said the quiet part out loud about what a lot of us were thinking while watching the Blackhawks, right? It's pretty electric. Bedard had a win now declaration. After that 8-3 blast of the Blues, Bedard and Frank Nazar went on NHL on TNT to talk the game. And when Lundqvist asked what changes they made to make a leap, Bedard leaned in. He said, quote, "We're young, fast, energetic, competitive. We want to win. We don't want to win in 3 years. We want to win now," end quote. That's pretty gutsy, right? Pretty bold. All right, a little heady, really. But it shifts something in the room. This isn't a "we hope to be good someday" squad. This is a contending mindset already. They believe in themselves, and that's so important. And, he doubled down. Work hard, play their game, don't deviate, and win, even when wins and losses swing, right? And why does this matter? There's been a tension in Chicago's rebuild. How much do you lean into patience versus how much do you push for relevance immediately? We've been talking about this, right? Do we just sit on our hands and wait for the Gavin McKenna lottery? No. Not now. No, I don't think so. For years, the narrative has been, in X years, we're going to contend. Well, now Bedard's saying that timeline is a thing of the past. When the face of your franchise says, not waiting, not rebuilding quietly, we race, it changes expectations, habits, and culture. It forces accountability. It demands real growth. Bedard's first 2 seasons were strong, right? 61 points as a rookie, then 67 the next year. But the team results lagged. Chicago still ended near the bottom in both campaigns. So this year, it's not just about old number 98. It's about whether the supporting cast, the coaches, the defense, and goaltending can catch up. I think they are. I really think they are. He's not naive. This is still a young roster, but what he's doing is refusing to wait longer than he has to for results. And that shows leadership from a 20-year-old. It shows some leadership. And that's voice, that's stake in the game. So what to watch out for in these coming games, in the coming weeks and months? Will Bedard's tone become the team's tone? Will others echo that? How will the front office respond contractually? Does this win now speech influence how they build around him? Can the team be tight enough defensively in execution to match the swagger? Because elite squads don't just score, they prevent. Huge key. And do nights like the Blues blowout become more routine than rare? I'm hoping for more routine, to be honest. Bedard just made a promise in public that demands answering, not in 3 years, now. He's setting the stakes high, and for the first time in a while, it feels like the Blackhawks just might be ready to try to live up to those promises. Woo! All right, those words to God's ears, right? To the universe's ears. Let's hope that happens. That'll be pretty freaking amazing. Okay. Up next, let's talk about the Canucks. I'm not a big fan of Vancouver. I'm just not. So Friday night, we have another tilt. We're hosting. We're being very kind, letting them into our house. The Vancouver Canucks over at the United Center. This one matters. They all matter. This one, for me, this one really matters. After an 8-3 rout of the Blues, Chicago, we have the momentum. Vancouver is not a pushover, though. So let's break it down and what to watch for, the matchups that could dictate the game, and outcomes that can realistically be hoped for. So Vancouver started the season. Right now, they're standing at 1-2-0 so far. They're struggling to find consistency. Their goals for versus against is nearly even, 8-4, 9 against over those games. They just lost 5-2 to St. Louis on Monday. So they can be vulnerable, definitely. Jimmy Snuggerud scored twice for the Blues, right? So they can be vulnerable to high-end threats. Chicago has high-end threats in spades, it feels like, right? On the roster front, Vancouver has some injury flags. Derek Forbort is listed week to week. Their forward core is dealing with issues. Brock Bozer, for example, is out indefinitely with an upper body issue. So Vancouver's thinner than their ideal, which gives Chicago a chance to push some matchup advantages. Bedard and Nazar versus Vancouver's defense, right? So there's one thing to look at. Bedard and Nazar showed high gear against the Blues. Now they'll test themselves against Vancouver's backhand, shorthanded and banged up. Can Chicago get penetration through Vancouver's defense? Can Nazar use speed to force mismatches? Vancouver's defense might bend under consistent pressure, and I'm betting we bring it. Special teams and transition. Chicago's power play, especially the second unit, looked dangerous last game. If they can draw penalties and convert, well, of course, that's going to tilt the game in our favor. Conversely, Vancouver must stay disciplined, which I hope they don't. Their penalty kill and transition defense will surely be tested by us. Chicago, and number 3, goalie battle and net presence. Chicago's rolling with confidence, obviously. If Spencer Knight's in the net or Soderblom, it doesn't really matter. Both of those guys are doing great. Whoever our netminder is, his consistency and his ability to hold the fort makes or breaks this, as usual. Vancouver likely will be leaning on Thatcher Demko, if he's healthy, or whomever they have. Kerry Lankinen just gave up 4 goals to St. Louis on Monday. Whoever's in the net, the more traffic Chicago gets in front, which they did a great job against St. Louis on, the more they can wear down the opponent goalie. And fourth is depth and bottom 6 contributions, which we always talk about. The top lines will get attention, but for Chicago to win, contributions from the third, fourth lines and defense, it needs to happen. Reichel, Green, the bottom guys, all of them. Can they tilt momentum? Absolutely they can. Let's hope that they do. Vancouver's weak in depth give Chicago a real crack to exploit. So here's some possible outcomes and what to hope for. Number 1, a confident win, right? Chicago doesn't just win, we win comfortably. Maybe 4-1, 5-2. If things click, control the pace, dominate shift to shift. Another possible outcome is a tighter one. We've had a few of these, but us coming out on head. Maybe 3-2 or 4-3, where Chicago survives the pressure, leans on goaltending in clutch moments. Or a risk of a stumble, right? Canucks might steal momentum if Chicago lapses defensively or fails to bury chances. Vancouver has skilled forwards and the ability to catch cold teams off guard. So I don't think we're going to be cold. Blashill has been very consistent, very disciplined. So I'm going to assume that we're going to come on ice ready to go. So what we hope for, Chicago asserts identity early, maintains control to second, and rounds it off with a clean third. More than 2 goals from the supporting cast, some power play goals, minimum bad turnovers. That'll be an ideal night. Will even be even better? A shutout. Let's have a shutout. Why not? Let's shut these guys out. That would be amazing. So hoping for a great game tonight against these Canucks, as I like to call them. All right, last but not least, our good old, you guys, your contributions here, which are always so important. Flute Person 625. I know that's a fresh one. That's a newcomer to this discourse. So welcome, Flute Person. He says the first minutes of the last video that we just had, when we were talking, the first 6 minutes was basically going over the game of against St. Louis. The first 6 minutes of this was basically what I ranted to my friends about this morning. Well, hey, Flute Person, great minds think alike. And I'm glad that you and I are on the same page, because that was just awesome. This is so awesome to see. So thank you very much for your contribution, sir. Beans714, a repeat offender on this channel, says, what's up, PJ? Here come the Hawks. And now I have that song in my head. Thanks a lot there, Beans. Here come the Hawks. Yeah, we're coming. We're coming, buddy. I'm glad you're along for the ride. Tom F, 3256, another repeat offender. That is the game we've been waiting to see. After all these boring off-season weeks, we're finally seeing a well-coached, talented, speedy, and fun lineup. I'm looking forward to a season of this. Win or lose, they're fun to watch. Amen, brother. Absolutely right there with you, man. There's just excitement. I don't know if it's the centennial season. I don't know if it's, harking back to all the legacy and bringing that with all that mindset with us. I don't know what it is, but the young kids are here to play. They're doing a great job. Yeah, we have some mental lapses now and then, right? But I get on Levshunov a lot because sometimes he doesn't seem to be focused, but sometimes he plays great. So there's a lot there that we can build on. I don't know. I just have a lot of confidence in this team. Are we going to win the Stanley Cup this year? Yeah, probably not. But hell of a lot of fun to watch. So thank you, Tom. Thanks for being along with us for the ride. Lester, the commander, 701. Hey, PJ, glad you're feeling better. Family first. We talk about Nick Foligno, of course. And then he goes, I feel the Blackhawks may have more breakout games like they just had last night. Many players may get hot at the same time. Reichel, yeah, finally. Let's see what the young guys can and will do. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, Commander. Your contributions are always so great. And Fubar Total, 3389, another repeat offender, always in with great comments. He says, and I'm going to read all this because actually it's kind of important. He says, I watched a documentary years ago about gambling, and they interviewed many current and reformed gamblers. One said that he knew he had a problem when he found himself wishing his wife would die so he could collect the insurance. Jesus. I will always remember the last image shown. It was a guy at the track with a 1,000-yard stare saying, I just saw a horse that's going to make me king of the world. Yeah, it's terrifying, right? And I'm a little more attuned. I mentioned watching Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, who did a great piece about sports betting. Of course, I think 99.9% of us out there have bet in some fashion on sports at some point. It's just that these days now, with stuff that you can just get on your phones, it's nuts. And the ability and the accessibility that you have to gamble and to do real damage to your own personal finances and the finances of your household is terrifying. To me, it's terrifying. I have a young son who's heading into college next year. He's not a gambler by any stretch of the imagination, but I know that culture, these young guys, and it's fun. Hey, let's bet on all the sports and everything. Easy to get wrapped up in that. So I worry about that kind of stuff. So thank you, Fubar. I appreciate that comment. I appreciate also you mentioning the 1,000-yard stare and how terrible it is, because it is something that's crazy scary, right? Some people are great at gambling. I suck at it, so I don't do it. I'd rather just keep the money and buy ice cream. Clearly, I got the body for it. So thank you very much for that. And one last thing before we wrap. As we're all Blackhawks fans, please do yourself a favor and check out the Chicago Blackhawks YouTube channel. They're putting out a docuseries celebrating the 100 years of the Blackhawks called Always an Original. And their first episode just dropped. It's like half an hour long. Wonderful, right? Very proud to say that they covered a lot of what we've already covered on this channel this offseason. But they had a bunch more very cool insights and tidbits about the Hawks I never knew. Very happy to learn about. Very well done. Very cool. Definitely watch it. Put notifications up on that when it drops. Really, really cool. Again, very, very well done. So please give it a watch. I truly think you'll get all the feels and love it. I sure as hell did. So that's a wrap for today, Blackhawk Nation. It's Friday. Go enjoy yourselves. Have a kick-ass weekend. We got, I think, probably the last weekend of some fairly decent weather temperature-wise. So have an amazing weekend. We got 2 games, though, too, right? We got a game Sunday, I think, against Anaheim. So game tonight against the Canucks, and then the Ducks, whatever. But lots of hockey to celebrate. We'll get back to this on Monday. If you're new here, please remember to like and subscribe. If you're subscribed, thank you. Thank you very, very much for your support. Also for sharing about the channel, telling your friends, telling your family, because, who doesn't want to get in on this? For all my repeat offenders in the comment sections, thank you so much. Please keep them coming. Love building this community with you. Thank you for checking out the Blackhawks Daily Download every weekday as we celebrate this original 6 team, the best team in hockey, with the best fans in all of sports, in the absolute best city in the world. That is Chi-Town, my friends. I really appreciate it. I'm PJ, and we'll see you next time on the Blackhawks Daily.